everyone, my name is Crystal. Thank you so much for joining me today for some practices to support you to navigate life's challenges more skillfully. Obviously, the biggest challenge that we are all facing in a way that it's almost been like the great equalizer has been a pandemic where there is really widespread fear that has produced for many of us a lot of anxiety, feelings of isolation, a sense that feeling out of control, loneliness. There's so many things that are arising for so many people. And, you know, the interesting thing about what we're all feeling in terms of it being a form of fear is that it's connecting us, right? We're all feeling it. There's no real FOMO going on, right? We're all facing one of the toughest battles that we've ever faced. And, what keeps arising for me, in particular, when I pause and reflect on all the people who are the most vulnerable, because of course people who are the most vulnerable always suffer the most, and just having to acknowledge that we have lost a lot of human lives and that we will continue to do so at least for some time. What I'm present to is a real sadness. When I really get present, there is a part of me that is grieving in advance what I know will probably come. And it can feel overwhelming. And I just want to point out that, even though this fear that we're all feeling in varying degrees, of course, but very real fear, may be, it may feel personal. It actually isn't. It's universal. And, when we feel fear and when we feel overwhelmed, when we feel like we're caught up in a big storm that we obviously have no control over, all it takes is one singular person, right? One singular nervous system to be grounded and to be like an anchor, right? In a boat or on a boat. And so today we're going to do some things that I hope will help you anchor yourself and to, almost like a contagion, right? Spread a feeling of calm. And I say all that to say, for many of us, we're in a state of fight or flight at some point, right? We're in a state of fight, flight, or freeze, right? Some degree of shock or some degree of like wanting to just flip out and scream and shout, or we're just running away from everything. And so I say all that to say that when that arises, first of all, to acknowledge that it's natural. Fear is natural. It's an intelligent response to challenging circumstances. It's communicating to you that it's time to pause and really think in a way that is thoughtful about how to proceed. And there's nothing wrong with fear. So the first big practice is be gentle with yourself. Find a way to normalize for yourself. Like, this is normal. I'm okay. This is an absolutely normal response. Under circumstances when life is going well, we tend to resist fear. We tend to resist negative emotions. And now is the time to acknowledge that, oh, right, they're actually a natural part of life. This is normal and this actually belongs here. I wasn't flipping out under these circumstances. Someone would wonder if I was human or a robot versus a human. So that said, there is this sort of window of tolerance that we all exist inside of when it comes to managing stress, right? Most of us can manage certain degrees of stress. Many forms of stress are actually quite positive. They challenge us to learn and grow. And then there are circumstances that are outside of that window of tolerance. And so I'm going to offer some practices today that I hope you'll put into your toolkit that will support you to deal with that flight-fight mode when it arises, so that you can get present and get grounded and re-anchor yourself to attend to what needs to be attended to. Okay. So the first practice we're going to do, we're going to start with some movements, because often when we're super activated and anxious, pausing to get really still and quiet is like the absolute opposite of what our nervous system needs in order to manage the state that it's in. So we're going to start with something just called tapping. And I like to start my tapping from the bottom and work my way up. Okay, so I'm going to take one foot and cross it on top of my knee, and I'm just going to tap my feet with my palms and hands. Okay, and so the degree of pressure that you give your body as you tap, it's totally up to you. Notice I'm making my way up my leg now. And I'm going to tap my knee. You might not be able to see this, but I'm tapping my thigh. And then I'm going to start tapping my hips. Front of my hips, sides of my hips, and the back. And then I'll make my way down the opposite thigh. Tap my knee. My calf and lower leg, and then I'll cross my foot on top of my knee, the opposite knee, and tap my foot again on the other side. Good. And then I'll come back and I'll bring my hands to the belly and start to tap the belly, the sides of my waist, my lower back, my chest. And then my hand, one hand, my wrist, my lower arm, elbow, upper arm, shoulder, my neck, sides of the neck, front of the neck, chest, if I haven't done that already, the opposite shoulder, upper arm, elbow, lower arm, hand. And then I'm going to take my hands and tap my head, and I kind of have a lot of hair, so I can do this pretty vigorously and not hurt myself, but modulate is necessary. And then start to tap your face. And use your fingertips to tap around the eyebrows, just above the eyebrows and the forehead, the cheekbones and the jaw. And then bring your hands to rest on your thighs. Close your eyes if they're not already closed. Just notice how it feels to be in your own skin after some tapping. And then gently open your eyes. So the next practice we're going to do is a really great practice to get you grounded when you're feeling kind of also spun out in that way. So for today, I'm going to sit back in my chair because I happen to be sitting in a chair where when I sit back, I can still feel my feet on the ground. So in an ideal world, that would be the case. If you can't, if your feet don't reach the ground when you sit back in the chair, then consider putting a pillow under your feet so that you can connect with what's underneath you for the purpose of grounding, which is what the practice is all about. So again, go ahead and close your eyes. And there's something really wonderful about that contrast after doing a lot of movement in the case of tapping, and that's a little vigorous and energizing. And then closing the eyes to connect with what's underneath you, what's behind you, that's offering you support. So starting at the bottoms of the feet, just notice the way the ground comes up to carry you. Right? Fortunately, we live on a planet with gravity, and we have this constant source of support underneath us. So just notice what it feels like to connect in an intentional way to that support and let your body weight give over to the earth. then making your way up the body. Notice the point at which your seat, the chair you're on, or whatever you're sitting on, connects to your thigh bones. And just notice if there's a little holding in your thighs or in your hips, and see if you can soften that holding. And again, let gravity do the work of supporting you rather than you resisting it and pulling away from this natural downward energetic quality of letting go. Right? This gravity gives us an opportunity to let go at any time we tune in. See if you can soften that place where the thigh bone and the hip socket meet, and just really let that surrender. And trust that your hips and your seat will be supported. And then, especially if you're connected to the back of your seat, right, the chair back or the couch back, whatever you're sitting on, can you lean back into that source of support such that your heart begins to widen and open? It's amazing how the heart can open, allow itself to be vulnerable when we sense that there's something behind us, when we sense that someone has our back, something has our back. And then continuing this idea of letting go, notice if there's any tension in the shoulders and see if you can just let them drop. The shoulder blades drop, the elbows drop. So even the arms connect to what's giving them a sense of being able to just be. And now bring your attention to your face. And notice if you're clenching in the jaw, if there's like this feeling of trying to hold on to something. Can you gently release your jaw, parting the lips slightly if that helps? Can you let your cheeks just soften? Let the skin on your face soften. Let the inner corners of your eyes and the corners of your mouth just let go. Just notice what's happening to the skin on your forehead. Can you let it relax? And take a moment and almost as if you're looking at yourself through a camera lens, right? Can you zoom the lens of your camera out so that you become aware of your overall state? After consciously or intentionally letting go, letting gravity come up to carry you. And then when you're ready, gently open your eyes. Great. And then we're going to do one more practice. And this is, again, just another breathing practice. And the other day, or in a previous video, we did a breathing practice called anchor breathing, where you use one hand and place it on a part of your body that has a really clear, that gives you a clear awareness of the fact that you're breathing. So you can sort of watch your breath using the kinesthetic feedback of your palm or your hand, wherever it was. So today I'm going to encourage you to choose that same spot, right? So for me, the place where I feel my breath the most clearly is when I put my hand on my belly. It might be your chest for you. It might also be right in front of your nose, just feeling that air coming in, going, that cool air, that warm air as you breathe in and out. You can come towards the edge of your seat. I tend to do my mindful breathing practices away from the back of a chair, but you also might today, after that grounding practice, choose to be supported by be completely supported by what you're sitting on. And so from here, I'd like you to just take one hand to that anchor spot. And again, the goal today and the practice is to, bring our attention to the breath, to get curious about its movement, its depth, its duration. And to notice when we get distracted or when our attention gets pulled away from the breath. And then just gently bring it back. And today we're going to use labels. We're going to label or give words to our breathing as our anchor, right? So instead of taking the hand and lifting it away from our anchor spot, instead today we're going to use words to try to anchor our attention on our breathing. So the words we're going to use as you breathe in will be just to say quietly, breathing in. And you might even lengthen or stretch those words out in your mind so that breathing in lasts the duration of one complete inhalation. And then as you exhale, you can quietly say, again, in your own mind, the words breathing out. Right, so it might sound like breathing in, breathing out. We'll just continue like that. You notice your attention has already gotten distracted and you're caught up thinking about something or listening to something. Just gently bring your attention back to your breathing. Saying those words, those labels, breathing in, breathing out. And gently release your hand and you can let go of those words. And gently open your eyes. And just notice how you feel now. And then the final practice we're going to do is to orient, right? So we've drawn our attention inwards. And now, as you transition, you'll probably go back to doing whatever you have to do in your home. So take a moment and, before you sort of leap out of your own internal experience, right, just look around the room, right? Look at the walls, look at the ground, right? Notice what there is to see. Perhaps things that you see all the time, but you don't necessarily mindfully become aware of. And as you orient yourself to the space around you again, see if you can keep part of your attention inwardly drawn as you take in your external environment. Right, so sometimes when we're doing what we have to do for our families, right? All of our attention goes to what's right in front of us or what has to get done, or our attention goes right into the brain, right into our mental or intellectual center, and we disconnect from ourselves. So as you really take in, like, I'm looking at my blue walls, I'm noticing the light fixture, I see my flat screen TV. I'm really checking out my environment, but I'm also being mindful to stay present to how I feel on the inside. Good. And then see if you can keep that, right, as you go forth with the rest of your day, right, knowing that you have tools, right, that you have simple practices that you can do to help you discharge stress, which is what the tapping did, right, to help you anchor yourself in the present moment, which is what the mindful breathing practice did, right? And you also have this ability to ground, right? There's always something underneath you connecting you to a source of support, right? You can always feel your feet on the ground. You can always, if you're sitting down, connect to what's carrying you, what's holding you up, right? So simple practices that can be incorporated throughout your day to help you, right, stay connected to this internal refuge that we have, even in the midst of a giant, overwhelming pandemic. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a wonderful day.